Welcome to an episode of Grifters with Potion, presented by Frog Tony. In this week's episode, we're going to be focusing on Grummz and an expose that pretty much accuses him of living a double life. There was recently an expose made about Grummz titled Gunner Anomicon Grummz Part 1 by MLYP. According to him, it was a collaborative measure, but it pretty much accuses, and with receipts, with archives, shows and proves that Mark Grummz has been leading a double life for the better part of 20 years now, ever since he left Blizzard, and even before that actually. He's been working under the alias Debbie Chan. Now, I definitely encourage you to watch the video by MLYP. It pretty much gives you a rundown of all the stuff that Grummz has been doing for pretty much the better part of his career, leading to his shenanigans that he's doing in current day, including the continuation of fundraising for a game Ember that he doesn't have any sight on delivering anytime soon, even though he's raised substantial amount of money for it already. But I already talked about that before. What I want to focus on this video is the new accusations, and that is that Grummz has been a gooner, posting pornographic content under the username Debbie Chan his whole adult life. Now here's a brief description of the video. Since 2001, Grummz has maintained a secret persona called Debbie Chan / Foxy Fighter to write, commission, host, and film lesbian wrestling catfights. End quote.
March 27, 2001, foxyfighter.com is purchased by Mark Kern. Ignore the country of France. That is where Gandhi SAS is located. They're a French company, but Mark Kern is the registrant. Now, Mark Kern isn't a unique name, but there's later information that basically proves that this is him. Now, what is foxyfighter.com? To put it as simply as possible, foxyfighter.com is sexy catfight hentai. It is a website run by a persona called Debbie Chan, but Debbie Chan is Mark.
Yes, he's been hosting websites for catfights. Now, when I first heard that, I was thinking about the actual cats. I thought he was actually filming, like cats, meow, meow type of cats, fighting out there. And I thought that's kind of a weird fetish, being all into cats. And they also talked about him hosting catfight hentais. And I was like, oh my God, they're showing like cats, the felines in those sexual positions. And I'm like, damn, this guy's a freak. No, it turns out it's actual cat fights between women and hentai, drawn about women. So at least the accusations are not that he's into any kind of animal corn or anything like that.
He has, over the course of 20 plus years, collected a variety of live action catfights, drawn hentai catfights, quite a bit of like run-of-the-mill porn. However, there are multiple stories where his persona, Debbie, violently sexually abuses women.
And I quote, he's an original owner of a fetish forum, freecatfights.com, as well as other several niche fetish femfight sites, at least 2 of which were taken down due to 2005 anticipated pornography law changes.
On February 28, 2002, Debbie wins second place in the 3rd Seeking Femfights story competition, so he is actively making this stuff. And on March 24, 2003, we get RussianCatfights.com. This is another site owned by Mark. He confirms it on a Twitter post. March 22nd, 2004, we get an archive of Latina catfights. This is also owned by Mark. June 28, 2004, access to Foxy Fighter goes for about $10 a month. Posts are stories and drawn artwork.
So pretty much Grummz is being accused of running, operating, and uploading for fetish fight sites. FoxyFighter.com, LatinaCatfights.com, RussianCatfights.com. Now, I have nothing against an honest cat fight, like 2 chicks or 2 dudes, throwing down. It's a guilty pleasure that I like to watch sometimes. I'm really into MMA, I'm really into boxing. So when you see actual people fighting in the streets, it's something that's hard to look away. But Grummz has been accused of taking it beyond that. He's been doing fetish fight sites, where it passes into corn categories. Now, running these type of websites and stuff and asking for solicitation for females to participate in these websites are legal. But what it does is gives you an insight into the stuff that Grummz spends his time on. And he's been spending most of his time making content for these websites instead of concentrating on the companies that he was raising money from the public. And not only that, he has all of his sites registered under his mother's name, which most likely has to do with trying to evade taxes, which he already owes the IRS about $250,000 of unpaid taxes. So Grummz having his websites registered under his mom's name just might be another way of him evading taxes, which will be against the law. So all of this information was found from connecting the dots from a simple website and password dump. So whenever you get those emails or alerts that your password might have been breached as part of a big old website takedown, those emails and passwords are sometimes either sold or just dumped on the internet for people to gather. And that's exactly what they did in this expose. A lot of these email addresses shared the same password, and they all came back to Mark Grummz or Debbie Chan, which is also Mark Grummz. And ever since he's got a wind of this expose, he's been scrubbing all this stuff from the internet. If you look for those websites now, FoxyFire.com, LatinaCatfights.com, RussianCatfights.com, they're no longer up. Instead, they're pretty much up for sale. So pretty much to sum this up, MLYP has archived all of this information that is public on the internet, which shows that Grummz is into gooner stuff, has been running multiple fetish websites for over 20 years, and at the same time raising money and misappropriating that same money through different endeavors registered under his mom's name, and has been running a double life under Debbie Chan, writing and making and soliciting women on women sexualized fighting material. This is the guy leading the charge for the right-wingers against DEI and wokeness in gaming. And the initial reactions from the grifters is to sweep it under the rug like they do everything else. But this is just the beginning of the expose. This is only part one. One of the emails that shares the same password as the other dumps is named Pretty Little Girls 16. And given all the stuff that Grummz has been posting on Twitter, overly sexualized game characters, overly sexualized cartoons, some which are obviously younger than 18, running fetish websites like this, and having an email named Pretty Little Girl 16, says a lot about the type of guy Grummz is. And if people out there like Smash JT, Hypnotic, and Diamond still want to defend him, then it says a lot about them too. I'm gonna leave it right there. I highly recommend you watch this video. It's about 25 minutes long, but it's definitely worth it. But that's it for this episode. Remember, always be kind to yourself and enjoy your life. And I'll meet you right there. Peace.